All right, I've mugged back for the episode of Carnivore Trade. Today is Thursday, March 14th, 2024. If you've not done so already, please give the video a thumbs up. Like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Come find me on carnivoretrades.com for swing trading alerts, analysis, and live day trading. Anyways, let's get into it today. So markets here today, taking a pretty good hit. So we had a ton, and I mean a ton of OpEx chop, or ChopX if you want to call that, most of the day. So we had a gap up, a pretty good flush in the morning. Nice bounce, and then we dipped down. Looked like a failed breakdown, which it was for a little bit, but we did not get follow through. One of the levels I was talking about in the trading room and to members this morning was 51.55. You got to reestablish above that, and we tried for, briefly, and we just never could, right? And then lower highs here, and we're actually starting to dump quite a bit. And you're going to see here, this is Tuesday, so we're getting close to that Tuesday low here. So maybe a little bit of a bounce coming into play around, we'll say 51.20 area. There is some gamma coming into play here at 51.25 right now as I'm doing this video, but they have kind of unpinned us a little bit from that 51.50 area that's been a point of control for quite a while. What's the reason for the sell-off? Well, PPI obviously came in hot. Market initially did not really care, though, as it doesn't care about anything, right? But we finally, at some point it's going to care, right? Maybe we'll see if we get follow through here. But you saw this little dip, buy the dip, always buy every dip, and then it's starting to fail a little bit. So why is it? It's not just that it's hot. It's that year over year came in at 1.6. That's really hot. And expected was 1.1. If you remember the video yesterday, I said it's not really going to spook the market unless it's like, 0.1 is not a big deal, right? Like, yeah, it's hotter than expected, but it's not going to. But when you see it come in at 1.6, 0.5 above expectation, that's a little bit different. And I think you're starting to see the market finally respect the bond market here. Take a look at the TNX up 2.5 today. Take a look at oil. That is on breakout here, 1.64% gain for crude. And it looks like it's going to close above that pivot high. I told you guys yesterday this could break out potentially as early as today with that nice close near the highs yesterday. So maybe the market finally getting a little spooked here, and maybe it's time finally for a correction. We do have the Fed next week. So, again, keep that in mind. We are going into OpEx tomorrow, but pretty good decline here. And for right now, we did not take out that high from the 8th of this month. So it was last week. So again, market's coming in here. We'll see where she ends up here. Nice little dump as we get into the end of the day. There's about 25 minutes left. I got to do the live stream for members at 4:05, so I'm trying to get this done early. But again, big level tomorrow. You guys know the lines in the sand here. 5100 should be a magnet, 5090, and then your big pivot 5055 to 5060. If that gets taken out on a close, especially a weekly close like tomorrow, if we dump, it could get a little ugly. And we could be in for more of a dip. So just be aware of that. Triple Qs here definitely on the weaker side. Again, really haven't gone anywhere for about 3 weeks here. And this is much closer to weakness than the spiders is, right? So if we look at, again, if we flip over to the spiders, you're going to see we're way away from 50.55, which is where we put those pivots in. But on the Qs here, we put those pivots in at 430, just say 434, 433.75. And we're only a few points away from that right now. And we're still continuing to dip down as we get into the final bits of power hour here. So pretty good decline here for the market. Maybe we're finally respecting those rates that have been increasing quite a bit lately. We talked about the TYX. I gave you guys that trend line. If you wanted it, you could have taken it. That's just a freebie. And it was right there, and it's getting a nice bid off of that. So good pullback here for the markets. IWM, the big loser on the day. Again, this is more sensitive to rates here, more debt on the balance sheet. If the Fed can't cut, that's going to be more of an issue for the Russell. However, it's still weekly pattern. It's not terrible, right? It's not anything that, we went up to 210. We had that target. It did get hit. It's pulling back. This has room for a higher low, right? It's not like the end of the world here, but it is taking a pretty good hit today. No doubt about that. And you have to respect that for the time being. Let's take a look and let's extend this trend line out. Let's not do that. Let's do this. So let's extend that out. That could be our short-term little all right, you know what? Here. There. That could be our short-term little destination there. Then you have the 50 moving average just above that on the Russell 2000. Dow with the outside move down. Take a look here. Lower high, right? So we didn't take out that high, and nice outside move wiping out the last 2 days of trading. So we talked about this little minor kind of bull flag look, and it's getting rejected now. So Dow definitely on the weaker side. Still a lot of support at 385. That's kind of the line in the sand here in the short run. For the DIA, for semiconductors, nice outside move down, up move, lower high, and until this pivot is taken out, that is king. And you can we can look at the head and shoulder right there on the hourly. That's starting to trigger there for the SMH. For those of you who follow NVIDIA, which of course everyone does, that's down 4% on the day. Does have lower high potential, and again, this pivot high is king until proven otherwise. So semiconductors coming under pressure here. IGV coming under pressure, down 1%. Tried to break out of this little wedge, and is no follow through. So you can make a case on the weekly. It was like a rejection. In the daily, we got above it. Weekly rejection. Obviously, tomorrow's close will tell us a lot more about this market here, as we are starting to bounce into the 340 time frame. But good down day here for the market, and we'll see if this is the start of something more. Dow Transport's getting hit really hard again. Has a little bit of a relationship with crude, so and obviously we talked about the airlines a lot lately, and just seems that there's just more and more bad news here. Jets are still holding up okay, believe it or not, haven't taken out Wednesday's pivot, but transports did come down. We'll see about this little trend line here. In the short run, you could make a case that's a head and shoulders there on the daily, so be careful with it. That doesn't change the weekly, which is still okay though. So transport's definitely coming in. All right, so let's get over to rates here. So it always takes me a minute. So interest rates, 2-year having a pretty good day. Again, trying to hammer back on that 475 area. If this gets back through this pivot, it can go to 5, and that's where it would get interesting for the market. And I don't think the Fed would be able to cut. I know the Fed wouldn't be able to cut if we get back to 5% on the 2-year. But right now, pretty good up move. 5s, same thing. Remember that fake print from the other day? That got filled, and we're above that now. 10s, nice move. Still has resistance right here, so it might need to stall out for a day or two, but higher lows. And the 30-year, there's the trend line we talked about. Again, little resistance here. Anybody who bought here thinking this was going to bull flag to 475 is underwater, and they could turn into sellers if we hit this area. If the move's powerful enough, yeah, it can blow through it, but right now, rates are acting well, and higher lows were expected, and that has happened so far. XHB coming in as well. Did make an outside move, all-time high yesterday. Didn't quite get to my 108.20 area, but good outside move. Finally, a little bit of volume picking up too in the XHB. So we'll see if that turns into more. Again, interested to see where this closes the week, because if this closes red and you got 2 dojis in a row, could signal a little bit of exhaustion, maybe a trend starting to change, equal buyers to sellers. Can sellers follow through and change that trend there on the daily and force us lower? VNQ down precipitously, down 2%. Again, sensitive to rates. Coming back in. Weekly pattern is still okay for now. Definitely a good slice there on the VNQ. XLF just way overbought on the daily and starting to get so on the weekly. We talked about this yesterday. Getting a little parabolic on the monthly. Again, JP Morgan definitely is getting there. But good sell today. Again, you still have the daily uptrend intact. We got to take out, this 185 area for JPM. XLF, below 40 would get me pretty concerned that we could do some more backing and filling. But nice sell there for the Fins. KRE down as well. Again, this is the weakest sector, really in the whole market. KBE down 2.3. That's still safe right now on the weekly, but definitely coming in, and broker dealers here making a new all-time high, then coming back in. Short term, you got the 20 MA, and then if we start to correct, there's going to be a lot of support at 560. That's where we broke out of. It's also the year-to-date flat line, essentially, but nice, kind of bull flag, cup and handle type look, and that's where we would expect it to go if we can follow through to the downside. Oil, we talked about. Again, I've kept this trend line here for a long time, and it always just seems to go back to it. So again, right here, 1, 2, and then we hugged it, broke, pivot right there. We got through it, broke back, tested it again. So we've traded through it at times, but it's also Still been a decent level, and until it stops working, I'll leave it on there. But we did get to my 81.50 target. I've been talking about that for, I don't even know, probably since January. Yeah, since January. And we finally got there. Nice breakout. Weekly time frame. I might need to stall out here. There is some resistance. But if this starts going, like I said yesterday, what could take this market down? If oil breaks out, I think that kills the rate cut talk. So oil acting well, XLE acting well, new highs. That can still inch a little bit higher, 81.50, or excuse me, 91.50 to 92. XOP up 23 cents. It did make a new intraday high, but closing inside of yesterday's range. OIH new highs, and it looks like it might even close above yesterday's high as well. So 321.51 here, or 20 cents above that right now. Let's see, is the market? Yeah, market getting a little bounce, so that likely could hold up into the end of the day. So energy stocks looking good. And I don't see any issues with those right now. CCJ getting a bounce at the 200. We'll see what that does. You don't want this to go sideways here. If it does, it's going to 37.50. URNM, decent little cut, but closing back green. So no problems right now with that, but it does need to close above this white line tomorrow. Otherwise, it would be negating that weekly green bar. Nat gas trying for a higher low here, trying desperately. Stalling out at the 20 moving average. We'll see what it does. Actually having a pretty good day on the intraday. Could squeeze up, but you don't want this to become another lower high. Otherwise, we're going down to make a new low. Dollar index, big move. We talked about this yesterday. It had to get a move here because this was starting to look like a bear flag. And I said it's strange how it's decoupling from yields, right? Yields have been putting in higher lows, and the dollar, it's been kind of slipping a little bit. Lately, but now good day. 103.50 is your first stop, then 104. We'll see how it behaves there. Gold acting really well considering the dollar and yields are up. Again, I think this is just a risk-off trade. It's not so much the yields up, dollar down, or excuse me, yields up, dollar up, gold down trade anymore. It's more so of a risk-off type look for gold. I've said this repeatedly. I'll say it again. Gold and yields, I think, will go up together in due time. Maybe we're not there yet, but I do think that's kind of be like the secular trend. But gold pulling back, if we lose 21.50, you would expect it to go to 21 in the short term. Silver also stalling out here. We talked about this. There's going to be resistance here. Don't think it's going to just bust through that. It would be very shocking if it did. I'm not saying it can't inch up a little bit higher, but I would expect some backing and filling here from silver. Platinum down a little bit, but nothing terrible. And palladium actually having a little outside move. That can still get up to 11.50. Copper, meanwhile, backing off, but no problems here. Big surge yesterday. You knew it was going to pause today, right? We knew this was going to pause and at least stall out. Didn't quite get to 411, but we'll see what kind of pattern it puts in. It probably needs to digest that big move from yesterday. Lastly, Bitcoin did pull back. Nice outside move down, wiped out the last 2 days here. We'll see if this turns into a little bit more. You could almost make a case it's kind of got like this hourly kind of trend line. I guess, never mind, I'll leave that alone. Doesn't really look that good. Maybe on the daily, it kind of looks a little bit better. It kind of looked better there on the daily, yeah. So you can kind of connect those lows there, yeah. Kind of like that. So we'll see. It's a steep trend line. Of course, it can break easily. Short term, right around 64 is going to be support if we continue lower. Could this turn into a bigger corrective move? It certainly could, but I'd like to see more. I want to see a lot more. In fact, weekly, you're still green, but I wouldn't want to see a doji. That would be a little bit of a red flag. Again, my bigger red flag would be as if we closed below the all-time high. So if we close below 69.80 on the weekly, so meaning Sunday night, that would be a little bit more of a red flag for me. If it's strong, it should be able to close above that on the weekly. Again, doesn't mean it's can't in due time, but just means that right now it might be, this move might be a little exhausted here. But alt's still holding up pretty well. Nothing too terrible. ETH, a little bit of a lower low there. Solana maybe a little top heavy. So overall, it's still okay, but we'll need to see a little bit more evidence here. All right, so markets here, get a little bit of bounce now, pulling back. Again, we'll see what we get tomorrow. Bears got to follow this through. We do have, we've got OPEX flows in place, so we'll see how much pinning that does. I think the market would be down a lot more if it wasn't for OPEX pinning today, with crude and oil, crude and yields up both over 2.25%. But again, we do have the Fed next week, and we'll see. Is it finally time to correct, or is it just another fake out here? By the way, we'll throw these trend lines back on. We are below that wedge there. So follow through tomorrow would definitely indicate a big decline in momentum, and maybe a little bit of a red flag for bulls. So anyways, guys, gonna wrap it up here. You guys take care. Come find me on carnivoretrades.com. I'll see you guys all tomorrow.